One of the most important skills a horse can have is try. And yes, I do believe that try is a skill that we can develop in our horses. It doesn't matter whether you're an amateur or a professional, whatever you identify as a human in the horse industry. It doesn't matter how of your involvement. When you're looking at developing a horse, which we are all horse trainers in our own right, whether you get paid to do it or not. We need to look at the end result. I personally tend to look at what is this horse's full potential? Because I want to try to bring out that horse's fullest potential through the work that we do with our horses. But we can't do that if a horse doesn't have try. And most horses lack try because And really quickly, I almost forgot, guys, if you get something out of this video or this podcast and you want to see more like it, be sure you hit that subscribe button and let me know what you took away from this video that was valuable to you and your horse in your journey. I know a lot of you guys have questions. You guys will send me DMs or you'll put in the comments, and I try to get back to everybody as much as possible. But the number one place that if you truly want access to me to get continued help with your horses for less than the price of a single lesson, you can check out our Cavy community completely free for a week. I'll put the link at the very top of the description of this episode here so that you can get that, because there's an app, there's a private podcast, there's hundreds of videos in there, and that's the first place I go to answer questions. So if you truly want help with your horse from my program and my approach with that, that's where you need to go. I highly recommend you check it out. And frankly, it's what allows us to continue doing this free content, because some of you guys would go, hey, I want more help with my horse. I'll check out the Cavy community. You should do the same. Now let's go ahead and get into today's video. So we're going to start on the horse side first, then we're going to get into the human component of developing try, because ultimately this is a partnership that we have with our horses. We all want a deep relationship. I refer to this as a working partnership. And the reason that I kind of coined this is because it's an approach. What we do with our horses develops the skills. How we work with our horse develops the partnership. And in this particular instance, we're talking about developing the skill, the asset of our horse having try. And if I said, hey, Carol, hey, Bobby, hey, Danny, we need to work on developing your horse's try. And you could be an amateur, a non-pro, or a professional. I was talking with an aspiring rising professional about this just yesterday, and with one of our own horses, of the importance of developing try. Guess what? When we talk about developing try with our horses, it's not something that you just have to go out and just focus on try, right? Because a working partnership is what we do develops the skills, and how we work with our horse develops the partnership. And when we put those things together and we have the awareness of, is my horse truly trying? How much try does my horse have? And does my horse have a sufficient amount of try, which most horses don't, right? And we'll talk about why that's the case in a second. Then you can focus on still doing what you need to do with your horse to develop the skills. You need to focus on how you work with your horse to develop that partnership. And when you put those things together with the awareness of, is my horse trying? Then you can develop more try. Okay. And most horses lack try. That is one of the most underlying biggest issues. I see professionals that don't press on this enough with their training horses, and they need to develop more try in those horses. And then many non-pro, adult, amateur, recreational based riders have horses that lack try. And the number one issue that I have with that is that it becomes a safety issue at some point. Okay. It becomes a safety issue. If you're looking at, which is what I first address safety, and then after that, we're like, hey, can we help this horse reach this horse's fullest potential of what this horse is truly capable of? And at the crossroads of, what is this horse's job in life and what is this horse's fullest potential? And trying to mix that, because I train horses and spent well over a decade training hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of horses, hunters, jumpers, dressage horses, recreational riding horses, trail horses of all types, as well as Western performance horses. And when we're training for other people, we have to look at what are their goals with that horse. Okay. And let's assume that the horse is a good fit to go do that thing. It's like, okay, they want to be able to go do these things. Okay. They want to be able to go out and do a 100 pace. And then they also want to be able to trail ride, but then go around a small jumper course, or they want to go out and do some trail riding, then do some team pinning and cow sorting on the weekends, or some ranch roping, or maybe it's a show horse, right? And they're like, this is the job, this is the show. It's a hunter horse, a cow horse, a reiner, ranch horse, versatility horse, whatever it is, right? When we're talking about helping a horse reach its fullest potential, that's awesome, right? We need to be able to evaluate, what do we think this horse is truly capable of? And where is this horse today? What does this horse need to be able to do physically? What does this horse need to know mentally from an understanding standpoint? What does this horse have to be capable of on an emotional level? What kind of emotional stamina does this horse have to be able to be successful at that level, right? And all of those require try. Physical development, mental development, emotional development requires try. And so and people ask me like, hey, what's your kind of biggest fear in life? Right. And there's this story that was told by a guy named Ed Milet, and he painted this picture of that you die, and let's say like you die and you go to heaven, and you're standing there in front of the pearly gates, and God introduces you to the person that you're meant to be. Okay. And God says, Colton, well done, my good and faithful servant. I want to introduce you to the version of you that I created you to be on earth. And when I look over, and I imagine that I turn to the left, and I see the version of me that God created, that was the fullest potential I could have been, I want to be as close to that as possible. Okay? So I don't live with fear or regret or anything. I believe in taking massive action, which is why there needs to be why I'm so big on horses having try and people having try. I got 2 little girls, and developing try within them, right? That they have try. Because when you have try, the world is your oyster, right? And you can stay safe, and you can have a lot of fun. You can have so much freedom when you have try, because you don't have to always know how. We'll talk about that here in a second, to be able to get something done. And so when people are like, hey, like, what drives you? Sometimes it's the fear of saying, hey, I don't want to be a stranger if I ever get to meet the version of myself that is the fullest potential that God made me to be. And so when I work with horses, a lot of that transfers over, because I believe God put these horses on earth for a reason. And some of the horses come into my sphere so that I can help them become that fullest potential, right? But if you're a professional and an owner sends a horse to you, or if you're the owner of a horse and you're a recreational non-pro rider, right? And you're like, hey, this is the thing that I want to do with this horse, and that horse is a good fit for that thing, then we just need to focus on that, right? We need to focus on developing that horse to what your goals are. And certainly the horse might be far more capable of other things, but that doesn't matter, right? Because you own that horse, you get to enjoy that horse, and you can provide that horse with a really good life. And we need to look at, what does that horse need to know to be a really safe, reliable, and fun trail horse, or hunter derby horse, or etc., right? All the way through the different potential things that you enjoy doing with your horses. And at any level, whether we're trying to prepare a horse for something that we enjoy doing, which we should do because horses are here for us to enjoy, or we're focused on almost selflessly serving the horse in a way that we're helping that horse become the best version of itself that it possibly can, which means that we don't try to make it do things that it's not capable of. That's important too, right? Because that creates misery. And so we then need to understand that within all of those realms, the horse has to have try, right? Whether it's a trail horse, any of this. And most horses lack try. And that's why I'm harping on this, is most horses lack the amount of try that they need to be safe, and then later on continue to be successful at the thing that we want to do with our horses. Okay? And when we evaluate that and you're going, hey, my horse lacks try, I'll explain what I want this to look like here in a second. Then we need to address that. Okay. And earlier I said that we don't have to know how to do everything in order to figure it out. And that's one of the biggest things when it comes to try, is that once my horse understands boundaries, okay, one of the skills, in that working partnership, one of the skills that my horse needs to understand is how to stay within boundaries. They need to stay between my hands, whether I'm in a hackamore or a snaffle or any type of bit, right? They need to understand that they don't push or lean on that. They stay within it. They don't drift to the right. They don't drift to the left through their face. They don't push forward with their nose. They stay within that. They don't lean through my right leg. They don't lean through my left leg. And they also don't slack behind. They don't get, quote unquote, behind the leg. They need to stay, we're trying to ride them right between our legs and right between our hands. And that horse needs to understand those boundaries. And when the horse understands that one of the expectations is that they stay between the boundaries, okay? And we're developing try with our horses. If we go to ask our horse to do something that they don't quite understand, and some of you guys might have felt this, and some of you guys might not have ever felt this on a horse. And if you haven't, and you get the chance to ride with a professional or someone that has a horse that understands this, I highly recommend that you ask, hey, could you show me what this feels like? Because when you feel a horse that you ask them to do something and they don't quite understand what to do, but they don't push on the boundaries, they don't lean on your leg, they don't push on your hand, they don't pull on the bit, they don't try to get out of the boundaries, but rather they stay within the boundary and they go, how do I find the softness? How do I find the peace within what is being asked of me? That is a horse that has a level of try, right? And then it's a matter of how much try do they have. But we have to have some baseline understanding with our horses of if you ask your horse to do something and the horse tries to bolt away, right? That horse is trying to think away. And one of the best ways I've been able to explain this to some people is that when I'm working with my horses and I increase the request or the pressure, right? Because life is full of pressure. And when I increase the focus on my horses to where I ask for them more of them physically or mentally, or I press on them a little bit emotionally because we're trying to develop that emotional fitness, and that pressure of life is a part of that sphere, then I want to feel my horses start to have essentially a tunnel vision to where everything around them kind of melts away and they are able to be focused. They're able to be present with me in the moment. They're able to relax. Even though there's pressure, they're able to say, hey, I'm focused on this, so I can take a big, deep breath. And that comes through the association of aids that we have with our horses. And then they're able to tap into their understanding. And even if they go, I don't quite understand this, but then they can think their way through what is happening. That is a horse that is trying. That is a horse that is thinking and trying to find the answer. And when a horse has that mindset that we can craft with our horses, and a horse is truly trying, there's nothing really left for us to ask of them. Okay? Then it's a matter of, does our horse have enough try? And is our horse prepared enough to go do the things that we want to go do? And oftentimes tell people like, hey, trail horses need to be the most versatile, well-rounded, and most reliable horses out there, because you guys can come across anything. Absolutely anything. But if you're riding a reiner or a cow horse or a hunter horse in an arena, like, the worst thing that's going to happen is like the barn cat like jumps out of a flower box, or a barn, something like a dog runs through the arena. Like, it's pretty safe environment. But it's really important that we look at, does this horse have try? And then when we talk about what do we do to develop more try, is that oftentimes we need to go ask our horse of things that challenges them. that requires them to think a little bit more. And I recently put out a post on Facebook, I think it was, and Instagram, about how micromanaging our horses, or how helping your horse too much isn't truly helping them, it's micromanaging, and how much that holds these horses back. And so the way that we can develop tribe is we're there to be the horse's guidance counselor. We're not there to do it for them. We're there to guide them, to facilitate the learning experience, which means we need to set things up and let them work at it, right? And if that horse is working at more about trying to get out of it or get away from it, and let's just say that it's not because of our approach, but because that horse is just more interested in trying to find a way out than trying to find a way to operate within, then we let that horse work through that. That does not mean that we don't help the horse along the way, but you don't micromanage. You don't constantly step in. And, it's a little bit dangerous for me to put out like my child raising policies in here, because some of you guys are really judgmental and I couldn't give a crap what you guys think about it. But for example, I got one of my daughters, she's at this phase where she'll come in and she'll go, help. And we're like, what do you need help with? And a lot of times a horse will do that too. A horse will do something because you ask him to do it. Like, kid has free will. Kid will go, hey, I need help. We're like, what do you need help with? I need help with this thing. Okay. Have you tried to do it? Help. It's like, have you tried to do it? Help. And it's like, why don't you do it? And then if you can't do it, and we won't say if you can't do it, we're like, why don't you try to do it? And then if you still need help, then you can ask. But you got to try. And I tell you, it's like the high 80 or 90 percentile of the time, she's able to do it completely on her own, right? But she comes in looking for the easiest way. And sometimes horses do the same thing. You make a request of them, and then they'll try to make you do the majority of the work, right? They'll try to make you keep them going, or trying to get you to hold their big old head up because they're going to lean on the bridle. And when you set the boundaries of, hey, I'm not going to do this for you. I will guide you. I will support you, but I will not do this for you. And if you get a little lost, I'll help you stay on track. But our job as the leader with our horses, or even our kids, right, is that as a leader, we are developing influence, but we should be empowering our horses. If we want a horse that's truly confident, and this is what has separated my training program from a lot of other programs out there, is that the horses don't become dependent just on me, right? I try to make sure that we're developing the skills, the understanding, and the principles that they understand, so that they can take those with them wherever they go. Of course, a horse will adjust to the human over time, but ultimately, when a horse truly understands what their job is, because you don't micromanage them, you're not constantly hand-holding, you're not actually just making them do it all the time. And the horse is doing it because they truly understand it, and they're truly willing, and they've got some try, they can take that with them, right? They will over time adjust to their environment, but it is our responsibility as professionals to make sure that we are truly developing the skills within the horse and developing the right mental philosophies on life, one of which is you need to stay within the boundaries, and you need to try. And if you don't know what's being asked, you need to still stay within the boundaries, and then you need to figure out how to put the softness and find the softness through your body, through your feet, to find the answer to what's being asked, right? And that creates horses that they're way more at peace, because when they understand where the boundaries are, they're able to find ways to work through it. Then it's a matter of our own ability, right? Then it comes down to our end of it. And so there's a lot certainly to unpack here in this particular thing. But as I was mentioning, like with my daughters, it's like when she can do that the vast majority of the time, then guess what? When she does it on her own, I'm like, you did it. Good job. And give her a high five, right? And then there's times where she's struggling, and sometimes she'll like try to be stacking blocks together, and she'll be like, and I'm like, hey, relax, be gentle. And when she softens up, then she's able to get the blocks to go together. But when she's trying to force it, and sometimes, you have to de-escalate it. Like is she trying? Yeah, but she's trying to force it. And sometimes our horses will do the same thing. It's like, hey, I need you to try. And the horse goes, fine, I'll do it faster, right? Or I'll do it harder, or I'll have more tension in my body. And it's like, no, like we can guide that. We can say, no, 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 like ease up a little bit. You don't need to be in that frame of mind, or like that's not quite how we want to do it. But you can facilitate that and guide it to where then they understand, oh, when I do this, it's easier. When I try, there's less pressure, right? And that horse is able to enjoy that job that they have, right? And so try is an essential thing. There's nothing more sorry out there than a horse or a person that lacks try. It's really bad on the human side if a person doesn't have try, because it's their fault, right? If a horse doesn't have try, it's a reflection of how the horse has been worked with, right? And what's been done with the horse. And horses are very willing to change, and it makes horses be way more at peace when they understand that it's a two-way conversation, right? When a horse is just dictated to all the time, and the horse is just complacent and just like, yeah, I'll do it because they're telling me to do it, but it's just a one-way conversation. Versus when you're developing try in a horse, you set things up and then you allow that horse to make mistakes and then you guide them accordingly. But then ultimately, you're able to ride them with the slightest suggestion of what you're after. And that horse starts to take responsibility for what they're supposed to be doing. And as that horse realizes they have a say in what's going on, and you give them the chance to do what they feel like they need to do in those moments, that builds. You get momentum. You can start to be able to trust that horse, and that horse starts to be able to trust you on a deeper level because you're adjusting to where that horse is at physically, mentally, or emotionally, but you're not boxing that horse in completely, right? Boundary, and people are like, well, you're talking about boundaries and how that horse shouldn't land. It's like, yeah, I'm not boxing in, because boundaries create freedom. Understanding how to stay within boundaries is having discipline, right? And then when you stay within the boundaries, when you have the discipline, then you're able to do much more, right? And so if you're a person that is a non-pro or recreational rider and you do not develop try in your horses, you're going to end up in a situation where you need the horse to do something, and the horse isn't going to try to do what you want them to do. They're going to try to say, screw off, run off, and hasta la vista, see you, senorita, see you next time, right? And be able to develop that try, when we focus on what we do and how we do it to have a working partnership, we build a deeper connection. We build deeper skills. We build the try. We build the components that we need in the best of times and in the worst of times with our horses. And I can't think of anything hardly more valuable than doing that, right, with our horses. And so with that being said, y'all, I've got to jump off here. I got something else coming up here, but I hope that if you got something out of this podcast episode or out of this video and you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the subscribe button, like button. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I'd love to see you in the Cavi community. That is where you can get direct access to me to help you with your horses. You can post photos, you can post videos, you can ask questions. We got tons of resources. There is an app that you can download. You go to your app store, look up Colton Horsemanship. You can download that, join the Cavi community, and I'll be there to help you guys along the way. And it's an amazing resource, whether you just want help with your horses at home, you're a professional, or even if you're coming to join us at a clinic this year and you want to make sure you're prepared for the clinic and you've got support for after the clinic. Guys, we built that to help you with your horses. It is exactly how our program runs. And if you ever have any questions, be sure to let me know, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time.